wacky. The Folklore album is wild and I love it. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. This is my very first video, so please be nice to me. And this is me breaking down the main trio of songs, Cardigan, August, and Betty from the Folklore album from Taylor Swift. I have wild theories about this album. I believe that Betty eventually grows up to become Rebecca Harkness from The Last Great American Dynasty. And the entire album, every single song, including the ones you're thinking can't connect. But to get there, we have to cover the basics, and the basics are Cardigan, August, and Betty. So let's discuss those in this video. I'm Amanda, I'm the folklore theorist. I started on TikTok, you might have noticed me there. Otherwise, if this is your first time meeting me, nice to meet you. This is absolutely thrilling, and I did not think that I would be a YouTuber, but apparently here we are. So I hope you enjoy the ride. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the Folklore album. So, Taylor Swift wrote and released Folklore during the year 2020. And it was quite a subversion from her usual writing style. She took a turn into fiction. Although a lot of the themes in the album are personal to her, a lot of the characters she uses to talk about them are fiction. Folklore seems to be a concept album, meaning that all of them are connected, but right now we're just talking about the main trio, the ones that are confirmed. The fact that this is one trio of story talking about one singular plotline is confirmed by Taylor Swift herself. This is fact. The way that this is put chronologically is theory. So, what story are these three songs telling? The best order I can think of to tell them is this: Cardigan, then Betty, then August. That's not the order in which they take place, it's just the order that's easiest to explain them. First up is Cardigan. So this song is sung from the perspective of a girl named Betty. This song is retrospective, so it was sung about 20 to 30 years after the fact, but it's thinking back on this high school relationship, thinking about what went wrong, the good, the bad, the ugly, and all throughout it has these negative notes about betrayal, but also these positive notes thinking about what went right and what her boyfriend was able to offer her in this relationship. In this song, Betty flits through positive memories like a montage saying, "I knew you dancing in your Levi's drunk under a streetlight, giving me your weekends." These beautiful moments. But then it turns kind of dark. She says, "A friend to all is a friend to none. If you chase two girls, you lose the one." So apparently this boyfriend was not faithful to her. And this reveals Betty kind of views herself as like the one to keep. And she feels like he's lost her forever. This song contains many themes of loss, heartbreak, betrayal. It mentions the lyrics, "Stepping on the last train, you marked me like a bloodstain, leaving like a father, running like water." Ow. There are also a lot of themes of age, youth, and experience. She says, "Peter losing Wendy." This seems to be a reference to Peter Pan, wherein Peter Pan visits Wendy romantically through her window as children. She starts to grow up, but Peter Pan doesn't grow up. He stays a child. So it's as if this boyfriend of hers is like Peter Pan. He's gone. He doesn't want to grow up with her. She's grown up, she's matured, but he refuses to, and so he's done with her. Throughout it, in this dramatic highline, she says, "When you're young, they assume you know nothing." And eventually she says, "I knew everything when I was young." So she's saying, you should have known better. I knew better. Yet through all this negativity, she acknowledges, "When I felt like I was an old cardigan under someone's bed, you put me on and said I was your favorite." So somehow, she's still thinking about the positive. Betty deserves an award for positive thinking here. I don't know what's going on. Overall, this is a love song, but it's a love song with a lot of jaded betrayal and hurt. So again, this song is retrospective, it's thinking about this entire lifetime, but throughout this, it's thinking about one specific moment in particular. That's revealed in the line, "I knew you'd be standing in my front porch light, and I knew you'd come back to me." So this specific moment that she's thinking of is this one moment where he's standing on her porch trying to make amends, trying to make things right, trying to win her back. And she's thinking about her own reaction to it. What's her reaction? What does Betty do? What is James even apologizing for, and how does that apology go? Now we're in the song Betty. Second song in this trio. The song Betty is James talking to Betty. The setting is that Betty's trying to have a party and James shows up on her front porch trying to win her back. This is an apology song, some of Taylor Swift's finest, and it's basically James apologizing for spending some suspiciously sexual summer with some girl. This is not meant to be a good apology. It's clearly meant to be a very clumsy apology with a lot of fascinating choices in which you're like, Really, James? That's what you chose to say right now to your girlfriend who you cheated on? Are you sure? Like, for example, he calls her friend stupid while he's trying to apologize to her. Are you sure that's the choice you want to make right now, buddy? Harping back to Cardigan, the song has a lot of themes of youth, inexperience, ignorance. He says, I'm only 17, I don't know anything. So this is his defense. He's saying, I don't know any better, I'm just a teenager. I obviously didn't know any better to cheat on my girlfriend, oopsie. Why did James go off and cheat on his girlfriend? The second verse tells all. So we have what I call the gym scene. James says, I know where it all went wrong. Your favorite song was playing on the far side of the gym. So this is a school dance. He says, and I was nowhere to be found. I hate the crowds, you know that. So again, he's excuse making. But then he reveals, plus, I saw you dance with him. So, school dance. James is nowhere to be found. Betty dances with some other guy. James walks in, sees it, gets jealous, and walks out. The bridge tells how it picks up from there. He says, I was walking home on broken cobblestones just thinking of you when she pulled up. So again, he's trying to defend himself, saying, I was just thinking of you. So, some girl pulls up and says, James, get in the car, let's go for a drive. So obviously he does, because he has absolutely no say about the matter, and he has no choice but to, cheat on his girlfriend because some girl suggested that he does. He says those days turned into nights, which really suggests that it may have been innocent at first. They just spent days together, they spent time together, but eventually it turned into a full-blown affair. He says, I slept next to her, but I dreamt of you all summer long. Well, great, that makes it better. So this whole song, he's saying, if I showed up at your party, would you have me? Would you want me? And at the end of the song, he finally does it. He says, so I showed up at your party. So he's a party crasher. He shows up on Betty's porch. I picture this personally like he's actually playing this song to her. That's just the vibe it gives. Plus Taylor always plays it on the guitar, like standing up. It just has this vibe like he wrote this apology song thinking it would go well. All aboard! Those never go well. And in this song, he asks Betty if she'll forgive him and if she'll kiss him on the porch. But pride comes before a crash, because the song ends on a note of uncertainty. James says, you know I miss you, standing in your cardigan and kissing in my car again. So he says he misses her, but he doesn't say how she responds. Does she take him back? The last chord rings out, and I imagine it as if he's playing it in real time, like that last chord goes quiet, and then there's just utter silence, and there's just partygoers on a porch watching, and Betty herself standing for several seconds. What happens next? Before we talk about that, let's discuss who's this other woman who stole Betty's man? That brings us to our third song, August. So you'd be forgiven for thinking so far that based upon what we've heard so far, that this other woman is some evil, conniving villain woman who steals men. But what's she really feeling and thinking? It can't be that simple. Taylor confirmed that this girl's name is either August or Augustine. For my purposes, I'm gonna call her Augustine because it's easier. But sometimes I slip up and I just call her August, so we're just gonna ignore that. What did they do this summer? Augustine says, twisted in bed. So she's some evil woman, right? Not so fast. She says, will you call when you're back at school? I remember thinking I had you. She references wishing she could write her name across him, like literally label him, like as if she could keep him forever. From these lines, we can sympathize. There's two types of people in this world, people who say that they relate with Augustine and people who are liars. So Augustine knew that James was otherwise committed because there was that question, will you call when you're back at school? She knew that seemingly he planned to go back to Betty, but she was also fooled. James made her feel like he really cared about her, and Augustine truly believed that James loved her, that he chose her, and that they were gonna be in a relationship now, that he wouldn't go back to Betty, which made it all the more painful when he did. Like Cardigan, the song August is retrospective, meaning that it's thinking back to this moment, thinking back to this time during the summer where she had hope. But she gets bitter. She says, so much for summer love and saying us, because you were never mine to lose. Apparently, they stayed together for quite a long time. She says, back when we were still changing for the better, at some point, they started changing for the worse. So it sounds as if this relationship continues into adulthood. Uh-oh, the implications of that are messy. That sounds as if James continues cheating on Betty. That's true, my friend. We'll get into it later. What have we learned? Augustine has a soul, and James sucks. But there's much more to talk about here. How do all of these events fit together chronologically? I've heard a lot of people have theories about which song you could put in what order to make it make the most sense. I think this is just absolutely impossible. The reason is that both Cardigan and August are retrospective. They're thinking about this long period of time. They're thinking about an entire lifetime trying to fit it in a song. There's no way you can put that one song chronologically, like in a playlist, and have the plot make sense. Not to mention the fact that the song Betty, even though that's the one that's the most like in the moment, the most like present, even that one jumps around in the timeline, like mentions how he's on our porch, but then also there's a gym scene, and then also he's walking home, and then also there was the summer, and then now we're here again, and it's like, what's the order? Here's how things fit together. So Betty and James started dating in high school. This is revealed in the lyrics. To kiss in cars was all we needed, drunk under a street light, stopped at a street light. So this went on for quite some time. In Betty, James said, I miss all of these things, so clearly they had done this prior, they dated, this went on for some time. Then there was a high school dance, and at that high school dance, James saw Betty dancing with another boy. The lyric proof for that are mostly in Betty, plus I saw you dance with him. And James sees that, he gets jealous, and he walks out. And on his walk home, Augustine pulls up and says, get in, let's drive. That's all from the song Betty. I was walking home on broken cobblestones. She pulled up. And then in August saying, remember when I pulled up and said, get in the car, saying, meet me behind the mall. So this fits together. James and Augustine spend time together, perhaps innocently at first, and then it turns into a full-blown affair over the summer. The school year ends shortly after this dance. We know this because both the songs Betty and August talk about a summer thing, all summer long, summer love, all this. So clearly this is over the summer, and James and Augustine are having this secret relationship. In Betty, I slept next to her, and August says, I can see us twisted in bed sheets. Augustine has fallen in love with James. She thinks that James is going to choose her over Betty, and they're going to start dating now. James doesn't see it that way, he sees it as a fling. Then the following year of high school begins, and they're 17. We know this from the song Betty, I don't know why you switched your homeroom, so clearly this is in school now. And also him saying, I'm only 17. At school, Betty's friend Inez tells her that she saw James and Augustine out together.
The two were seen canoodling.
Betty is very hurt. Betty just continues on with her life. She throws a party to cheer herself up with all her friends. In the song Betty, James references her party plenty. James decides that this is the perfect time to try to win her back because he misses her and he's selfish. So James crashes her party and stands on her front porch. He admits to the relationship he had with Augustine, but he still insists that it was just a fling, it didn't mean anything, and he only ever wanted Betty. Augustine is hurt because she really thought James cared about her, and then he went back to Betty. What happens next? Seems like Betty doesn't take James back. This is all supposed. I can't be sure about this. I can't be dogmatic. But the line in Cardigan says, if you chase two girls, you lose the one. It sounds as if she may have turned him down at this point. But Taylor says that Betty and James end up together. Roll the clip.
In my head, I think Betty and James ended up together, but he really put her through it.
So if they supposedly end up together, but it also sounds like she turned him down here in high school, how does that work? That's where the rest of the album comes in. There's a theory from a couple years back that I remember seeing from off of like Reddit or Tumblr or something, and it has some ideas about how all of the songs could fit together, but I think that it's wrong. Why? Because a couple of these songs have clearly been misattributed to the wrong person saying them, or to the wrong person who is being spoken to, and chronologically it doesn't make the most sense. To me, this is my opinion, but I feel like there's a better way to put it together. For example, My Tears Ricochet is not James' funeral. Like, really clearly not James' funeral. The song Peace isn't James talking either. Epiphany isn't the one where James unalives. The song Mirror Ball is about a stripper. I could go on. We'll talk about it all in a future video. Subscribe if you want to make sure you're there for it. But for now, the main trio aren't the only songs that are about Betty, James, and Augustine. The entire album is about them, every single song. How do we know? Well, look at the pattern. Before anything was confirmed by Taylor Swift herself, astute fans realized that the trio of songs, Cardigan, Betty, and August, were all connected by looking at the fine details, the words in common, some of the themes. Like the word cardigan, the word cobblestone, streetlights, front porches, as well as certain themes like cheating, betrayal, summers that had a relationship that didn't last, and much more. So, wouldn't it make sense that we would do the exact same thing to determine whether other songs might also be related? Check the fine details, the words in common, the themes, things that relate to summer, to cheating, the reference of the one. And if there are significant enough connectors, then we could assume that the rest of the songs are connected too, right? So this isn't all there is to talk about. In another video soon, we'll talk about all the other little connections in the rest of the album and how everything connects together. I'm literally begging you to leave a comment down below what you think about this and tell me what kind of content I should make next. Obviously, there will be more explanation videos on the album Folklore, but I also play guitar and I sing. Should I do some of that? Don't think we'll say that word again or deck the halls that we once walked through. But I knew you dancing in your Levi's, strung under a street light. Cause I knew everything when I was young. So dramatic, my God. What about videos like Interview with the Swiftie? I have a friend of mine who's a hardcore Speak Now stan. I thought it might be interesting to ask her what she's expecting for Speak Now Taylor's version. I don't know, let me know if you have ideas. I figure if I can put you to work for free, that'll be fun. If you like this video, please do the next logical step, which would be to like it. And if you want to follow along with these lyrical analyses and check out some more of my theories, then subscribe to this channel and take a clown nose on your way. It's been an absolute blast. Thank you for watching my very first YouTube video in history, and also I'm terrified, so please be nice to me. Oh my God, thank you. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye. What does one say in a YouTube? What does one tube on a YouTube?